The Parental Rights in Education bill has officially passed the Florida State Senate, and even before being signed into law, has already made history as the single most misrepresented piece of legislation in perhaps the history of politics. Opponents have dubbed it the Don't Say Gay bill, prompting Senate Democrats in Florida to walk up and down their office hallways chanting, "Gay, gay, gay." The bill led Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, to tweet the word gay precisely 69 times. The bill impelled the CEO of Disney to donate $5 million to gay causes, to plead with Ron DeSantis not to sign the bill, not to prohibit the utterance of that apparently sacred word, gay. But the bill doesn't ban the word gay. The bill doesn't even mention the word gay. The bill just stops teachers from preaching transgenderism and other strange sexual theories to extremely young school children in preschool through third grade. Why are Democrats so deeply opposed to a bill that would have been entirely uncontroversial, considered common sense just 5 or 10 years ago? I don't know, which is why I've invited a Democrat on to explain it to me. Now, I need help making sense of the uproar over this law, which is why I have invited on my friend Ethan Bearman. Ethan Bearman, you know him, you've seen him on TV. He is a liberal California Democrat lawyer. Ethan, thank you for coming on.
Well, Michael, it is good to join you. And of course, I disagree with your entire premise of where this starts. But it's good to see you this morning.
Well, it's wonderful to see you. You are, as far as I can tell, very intelligent, generally normal, certainly by California standards, normal, common sense headed person. And yet you oppose this law in Florida. Explain to me the problem with the law.
Well, let's start with the presentation of the law in the first place. There is no sex ed curriculum for K through 3 in the state of Florida now. Nothing in this bill addresses the curriculum in the state of Florida. This is a classic red meat piece of legislation for a rabid base that hates the idea of anybody who is different from them. And so it was really a bill that addressed nothing that was relevant in the Florida schools in the first place.
Well, okay, then I'll pause you there for 1 second, Ethan.
Yeah.
If the bill doesn't actually take on anything that is going on in the schools, then what's the big deal? Why the uproar about it? It's going to be completely ineffective, so who cares?
Yeah, the big deal is this, is we already have a minority group of LGBTQ families and students. So, for example, one of the things that one of the authors said, I can't remember which Republican in Florida said this, but basically you can't have an issue now under this law, a teacher in third grade giving a word problem in math class can't say Jimmy and his 2 moms have, that's against the law under this law, to say Jimmy and his 2 moms. The reality is there are same-sex parents in this country. The reality is there are gay people in this country. To deny a reality is to diminish their existence, which we know based on data that actually has harmful mental health effects on LGBTQ individuals and families.
So I want to make a distinction here, or at least delve into this distinction. You're saying that this bill is unfair toward LGBT people. Are you referring to the LGBT 3-year-olds to 7-year-olds that this bill would affect? Or are you referring to the 3-year-olds and 7-year-olds whose sexuality we are not talking about and are not interested in? And I think it's a little creepy even to talk about 5-year-old sexuality, but maybe they've got, their father is gay, and so they, it's Johnny has 2 daddies, or their mother is a lesbian or something like that. And so it's disrespectful to them not to have the math teacher talk about the lesbian mothers when doing arithmetic.
Yeah, well, first things first, this affects K through 3, so I don't think kindergarten is 3-year-olds. Now, I have kids.
No, it's preschool. It's pre-K through.
Is it pre? I apologize. It's pre-K through. Okay, and third grade goes all the way up to, you could be 9 years old in third grade as well, potentially, depending on
how well you do in second grade.
But but here's the deal. It's this denying reality. This is a common problem that seems to be happening in Republican circles right now. Book banning, right? We actually have book banning happening in this country. You can't reject reality. You can't reject ideas that just because you disagree with it. Look, you and I disagree all the time. Does that mean, Michael, that I reject that your idea should not even exist in the public sphere for fear that it's going to infect others? Look, I am 100%, always have been, against white nationalism. For example, does that mean I think that it should never exist? Well, I would like it to never exist. Do I think that everything should be banned and those people should not be allowed to speak on that basis by government decree? That's what we're talking about. So it's not a choice that's being made. It's by government decree that we're saying something can't be said in a classroom. That idea should be antithetical to most people on the right, but you mix religion into it, and suddenly people forget their core values that they supposedly espouse, and then say, now we can't say those words at all in a public space.
Now, Ethan,
that's a problem.
On this topic of banning books, are you of the opinion that no books should be banned from the curriculum whatsoever?
No, there's a difference between curriculum and what's available in a library, right?
No, but we're talking about the classroom, though, right? You know, the math teacher talks about how Jane has two mommies. We're talking about the books that are being taught, not necessarily in a health class and not just what's in a library, but the sort of ideas and books that are being brought into the classroom. Are you of the opinion that no books should be banned whatsoever?
No, there are books that should be banned. And I would go back to the white nationalist example. I don't want any white nationalist book taught in my K-3 school but that should still be potentially available in a library somewhere if somebody wants to read and argue that point, right? Sure. I don't agree with it. I don't like it. It won't be in my library. But does that mean that the government should put out a decree that says it cannot be available? No. I don't agree with that. So that's where we are, though, in this circumstance, is the government is decreeing that a teacher cannot do a word problem in third grade that says Jimmy and his two moms. You're breaking the law, and now we're restricting teachers. By the way, Florida is also proposing putting cameras and microphones on teachers too. This is where the slippery slope on the right seems to be wildly out of control.
Now, Ethan, but what if math teacher Michael, who is Catholic and conservative, what if I were teaching students and I said, okay, so we're going to do an arithmetic problem here. Marriage, as we all know, is a sacred union between one man and one woman. So you've got one man on one side and one woman on the other. What happens when you add them together? 1 + 1 = 2. Would that statement, should that be banned from the classroom?
No.
It should not. So
if you think that and you believe that and you can disagree with it, the key here is, are you going to be preaching Catholicism in a public classroom? Now
I just did, didn't I?
But now you have to allow then at the same time. So there's a difference. If it's espousing a specific religious belief and you don't allow a contradictory opinion, I think we have problems.
Then on that, that's a very good point. On that point, when some leftist teacher espouses a very specific religious belief, namely that it's totally morally acceptable for men and men to be the same as men and women, or that men can become women and women can become men. That's a religious belief. It's called Gnostic dualism, among other things. Of course it's religious. It's about the nature.
That's not religious.
Of course. I mean, Ethan, by definition, it's religious. You're talking about the nature of morality. You're talking about the nature of humanity. You're talking about the relationship between our soul and our body. How much more religious can you get?
Yeah, it's not, because it's not part of a catechism, for example, from a church. That's where you start crossing
Church of Leftism, I think, Ethan.
No, that's not an official church. It's
the state church in this country. The IRS runs it.
It really isn't, though. So that's a nonsensical argument that the right likes to use. But the issue here still comes down to a key fact. There are gay people. There are same-sex couples.
No one's denying that.
You want to deny that reality in a classroom to kids because you somehow have a belief that is so weak that you can't hear those words, and you don't have a strong enough home where you're teaching them what you believe, your own children, that they can never hear something that contradicts what you believe. That's weakness. By the way, the Supreme Court just under 100 years ago affirmed your right, Michael, to send your kids to a private Catholic school. It was actually over Catholicism in 1925 that the Supreme Court ruled that you have the right to send your kid to a private school.
Right,
you don't have to send your kid to public school.
But Ethan, my taxpayer dollars are going toward the public schools, and I think this is a pretty modest ask to suggest that people who are little kids who are 3 to 7 or 8, or even for your slow second grader, 9 years old, in these classrooms, that they not be exposed to radical theories about sex and gender, which have been held in moral opprobrium by virtually every civilization for all of human history, that they not be exposed to that before they're even hitting the age of reason. This seems like a relatively minor ask to me. It seems like a pretty radical political agenda on the other side that's seeking to imbue the math curriculum with transgenderism and novel notions of marriage. We're already past time, but I want to give you the last word.
Yeah, I just disagree with that. And it's already not in the curriculum. It's prohibiting something that isn't even happening and is demeaning.
So the math teacher's not talking about it.
Section of our population.
The math teacher's not going to talk about Johnny's 2 moms and his dad who became a mother?
It might now because you made an issue of it.
Well, I guess it's on us. But I'm glad there's a law at least to stop that kind of radicalism that perhaps, I guess we impelled it in the first place. But I'm glad we won't see it anymore. Ethan, where can people find you?
Just ethanbearman.com, and you can find me on Twitter at Ethan Bearman.
Ethan, thank you very much. You have given me a broader perspective of this law, but I still think you are entirely wrong. Thank you for coming on, Ethan.
Thanks, Michael.
Head on over to expressvpn.com/Knowles. How did you choose your internet service provider? I know how you chose it. For the vast majority of people, you didn't have a choice because the ISPs operate like monopolies in the regions they serve, and they use that monopoly power to take advantage of customers, and they log your internet activity, and they sell those data to other big tech companies and advertisers. All those data, even the stuff that you're searching for on your little incognito window, things that maybe you shouldn't be looking at according to the powers that be, saucy websites like, for instance, the Daily Wire. You don't want that stuff getting logged. When you go online, use a VPN. It's as simple as that. Actually, yesterday, when I was looking up some things that were a little bit critical of some of government's policies, it occurred to me as I was doing it, oh my gosh, I forgot to turn my VPN on at the top of this setting. I'd turned it off briefly just to kind of restart it. I renewed my subscription. When you go online, use that VPN. It's so easy with ExpressVPN. You just click one button on your computer, on your mobile device. Do not hand over your data to big tech. Go to expressvpn.com/Knowles, expressvpn.com/Knowles to get 3 extra months for free. expressvpn.com/Knowles. Head on over there right now to learn more. I'm so glad you liked that clip. Ring the bell, please. Ring that bell. Subscribe, and then head on over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, wherever you get your audio podcasts. Subscribe to The Michael Knowles Show. Maybe leave a 5-star review. We'll see you next time.